Check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me? Check, check. For those watching the replay, you can go ahead and skip this countdown to the beginning. If you're watching on Facebook, please join the YouTube stream to chat. Carlos, if you're out there having trouble, let me know. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm still waiting for Carlos to dial in, and then I'll start the show. All right. What's up, Carlos? Can you hear me?
What's going on, Paul? Yeah, how are you?
All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and start the show, and I'll introduce you in about 10 minutes. All right.
Started, no delay, let's work. Wanna see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre De Vera, steady dropping knowledge. Over 15 years in the game, so he knows all about it. Master the art of SEO, you will be amazed. Time to get your brand off page to on page. Dropping knowledge, legendary for sure. Whether you're just getting started or self-employed entrepreneur. Yeah, let's go. Subscribe to the SEO video show.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the SEO video show. My name is Paul Andre De Vera, and I'm your host today. If you haven't seen the show yet, this show is about me collecting SEO video clips throughout the week and having some fun time with it. And the best part of my show is when I get to introduce my special guest. And today's special guest is Carlos from L'Oreal. We'll introduce him in about 10 minutes in, right after the news. I want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat. I see Carol, Glenn, Delilah, Andrew, Elizabeth, Bradley, Shar. What's up, everyone? And to everyone watching the replay, thank you for watching, and let's get on with the show.
This is Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. Where is the best place to hide a dead body? Page 2 of Google.
Google just released a little documentary about search on 2020. It's pretty cool. Did you know about 15 searches every day is brand new? Check out the documentary on YouTube on the Google official YouTube channel. Google also just announced that you can search now by humming. I'm curious how that's going to work, but I've seen some video of it and it's pretty crazy. You guys should check it out. Another piece of news from Google is that they just introduced a new feature for podcasters. I mean, this is something that I want to do and kind of convert this show into a podcast. And it's pretty interesting where they're going to show search information in Podcast Manager. So if you're already signed up for a Podcast Manager, check it out. It's brand new. Another piece of news from Google is that they just disabled their request indexing feature in their URL indexing tool. I mean, they've been having problems all weeks, couple of weeks and 2 months already. So, I mean, this is something that they really need to fix. So be sure to check that out. Check into your Google Search Console and see if you got deactivated. Another piece of news from Google is that they just wrote a blog on how Google autocompletes predictions are generated. You can check that out on the official Google products blog. And then the tweet of the week is by Lily Ray. She actually just posted just yesterday that the new Google Search Rater Quality Guidelines has just been released. So you can check out the link in the description and link to the actual Twitter feed, because in there, another SEO by the name of MJ, she actually pulled the differences, what was changed in the guidelines. So be sure to check out that thread on Twitter. Are you familiar with SPA? Single page apps? A new video by Martin was just released on SEO for single page apps. I mean, 3 years ago when my company was doing this, I was scared to death. I mean, I didn't know how to optimize this. It was actually We can just add maybe metadata and meta keywords, but now it's totally changed with the whole new JavaScript SEO. So be sure to check out that video. Next piece of news is from Bill and Eamon's Bogus Hangouts. Let's check it out.
Okay, so there was a story about dates in search results, and Google saying that often if there's a wrong date, it's something that the site owner has done. And I've experienced that. I've done that. I've written about patents that were granted or published in the European WIPO, World International Property Office. They include date formats that's different than the US. The US is sort of unique. We do it wrong. Everybody else does it right. So if I write about a European patent, I used to use the European date format, and now I've switched that over to including the name of the month and the day of the date, the number of the year. So I no longer use the European format for that.
So be sure, if you want to get your date in your meta description, there's a certain format you should build it out. I mean, kind of put it out there. I mean, you can use schema, you can use, I mean, for me, there was a time where I wanted to add the dates and I couldn't get it on there for whatever reason. And I was able to somewhat fake it. I mean, I don't say you guys can do it, but hey, you can just add it in the meta description the exact same way it's listed, and you can actually see the dates show up just as it is, as it was pulled in as Google. So kind of play with that. I mean, I don't suggest doing it on your client sites or anything like that. Maybe you have some personal sites like mine. I actually play with the dates on the meta description. This is something really interesting. Something just came back. Let's see who came back.
But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Moz Whiteboard Friday is back on a Tuesday, I think. They've been releasing a few videos. They're back. They said they're back. So I'm hoping that it will be, oh, hey, whenever they branded Whiteboard Friday, so hopefully it comes back on Fridays. But, you know, the more they release on any day, I'm still pretty happy with what they put out there. They put out some really, really good information. The next piece of news is something called an SEO strategy using creating a semantic related page. And our buddies over at Chris Palmer and Kyle Roof kind of talk about this. Let's listen in.
In terms of the impressions, its clicks, the amount of keywords it ranks for, and its conversions. Those are the four most important metrics. Something that I've worked on a lot is getting, with my H2s and H3s, so my subheadings, I think you want to think of your page as a Roman numeral outline.
Okay.
And those are critically important because they can create a page that is semantically related. And the advantage to creating a page that is semantically related is that you will rank for more keywords. And the more keywords you can rank for, the more impressions you can get, which makes you more eligible for more clicks. And something that I've been doing is the concept of choosing a lead H2, a lead subheading. So you've got your primary keyword, your very first subheading, choosing a lead. How to do that, and how you can do that is you do your search for your primary term, scroll to the bottom, see the related searches. All right, look at those guys. Pick the one that's the lead. Pick the one that you like the most. Now you are going to create a page that is wildly semantically related. It's going to fit. It's going to work. From the lead, you match the related searches from the primary list, and you get those together, and now you've got a page that is so semantically related. You're going to rank for so many keywords.
Did you hear that? I mean, I've actually talked about this in a lot of presentations when I give to my content writers. As making your page as an outline, like when you would write papers out in college, like a Roman numeral outlines and headers and subheaders. Putting a page like that can actually get so many keywords ranking, and then the more keywords you get ranking, the more impressions you get, the more impressions you get, the more clicks you get, and the more clicks you get, the more form fills you get. So check that out, play with it, look at related searches when you are doing some content creation. let's go ahead and look. I got another couple more pieces of news before I go to my guest. And for those just joining into the chats, please don't forget to say hi. Let's talk about Fight Club, SEO Fight Club. Something interesting was just mentioned this past week.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
He said something that just made my jaw drop. He said that if you have an article about indexing issues where you're talking about soft 404 pages and things like that, it can be very hard to get those pages indexed because Google sees the text about the soft 404s and then thinks the page is a soft 404 and then de-indexes the page. And so if you have content about those issues, it's very hard to get those issues, those pages to index. And that boggled my mind because that is like the biggest negative SEO attack vector we've heard about in like 10 years.
So what's happening is that there was an article that was written on Search Engine Journal. And what Ted did was he put 404 not found, those words in the comments. And he had a test where now Google's no longer indexing that page for some certain searches. Very interesting stuff, some crazy stuff. So don't misuse that, guys. I mean, that's just karma. If you start putting 404 not found on people's pages, that's just bad karma, guys. But hey, it's out there. Be aware of it. And my next piece of news is from how to talk to your CMO about SEO.
Today we're talking about how to talk SEO to CMOs. And it's going to take three things, okay? We're going to talk impact, incrementality, long-term value. Let's dive in. When we talk about impact, we need to compare the ROI of doing SEO versus doing nothing. The lack of comparison and making apathy or doing nothing the enemy is one of the biggest gaps I see. Get yourself a really great forecast with visualizations and everything. And from this, the impact, you can report LTV CAC, customers acquired, revenue, ROI multiple, whatever you want or whatever the CMO cares about. Make sure you report your forecast and your impact analysis against that metric. But what about incrementality? In other words, where else could we have spent that dollar? And so you need to report on incrementality. What happens if she gives you another headcount? What happens if she gives you more budget? What happens if you get that other resource you wanted? That's really, really important. Now, lastly, and the most importantly, this is where SEO shines. This is long-term value, okay? You have increasing marginal returns from SEO. And we're gonna talk about a thing called sunk cost. In other words, once you create a piece of content, you build a link, whatever you do, there's an initial sunk cost. But then every net new lead or revenue or customer that effort generates from here until eternity has increasing marginal returns against that initial investment.
There you have it. How to talk to your CMO about SEO. I mean, sometimes it could be a challenge because you need that budget. I want to go ahead and play one more piece of news. It's actually on the topic of e-commerce SEO, and that's what my guest specializes in. And I want to make sure, let's see here. Let me go ahead and start that and listen in.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
One of the biggest things that I'm seeing brands not take advantage of, and this is going to surprise you, is Google Shopping. They've made drastic changes this year to the benefit of merchants and small business owners. They've made everything free when it comes to Google Shopping. So you can now take your product catalog if you have an e-commerce store or services, and you can actually put them on Google Shopping for free. You can list them for free. So that I feel like is like a well-kept secret, but I feel like a lot of brands are going to now take advantage of this during the holiday season. So in the sense that exactly what you're talking about, they're going to basically take that catalog and they're going to get it online as fast as possible and Google, optimize it. And then also Google Images is also a very well-kept secret. And I've written about this too, where those images now link back to your website. They don't go to this image directly. They say visit and they come to your product page. So make sure your images are tagged right. They have the description, they have the alt tag. Everything is, again, the basics, right, are done right. Don't skip over those because images Google has given you this great gift.
couple e-commerce SEO tips there. We can ask my guest a little more, which brings me to my guest right now and the favorite part of my show. Let me get this ready and set up here.
Carlos is a 15-year veteran of the digital space, working across several areas of e-commerce. Because of his technical background, SEO was a natural fit. He's been leading SEO strategy for various brands for the last 10 years, including Toys R Us, American Express, and presently leading SEO for some big names in the beauty space. When not working on SEO strategy, Carlos enjoys spending the time with his daughters, cooking, and music. Carlos currently holds the title of Director of SEO/SEM and Site Optimization Lead for the Lux Division of L'Oreal USA. Please welcome Carlos Spallarossa.
Carlos, my man, how are you today? Oh wait, I can't hear you. I think your mic might be off there. Oh, I can hear you click your button. Let's play a little music. I can't. I can hear your finger moving. Oh, you may have to turn off YouTube because I hear feedback. I actually hear myself.
Hang on.
All right, I can hear you now.
How's that? Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Welcome, Carlos.
Right. Very cool. What's going on, Paul? How are you?
Okay, I'm hearing a little echo. Do you have YouTube open somewhere?
I don't, but let me just make sure we're good to go. I'm going to close everything out here. Just running through some keywords right earlier today. Let me know if that's better.
All right. Yeah. Oh, no. I actually hear myself. We can go ahead. Okay, there. I don't hear myself as much. Oh, no. It's gone. Perfect. Carlos,
right.
What's up, my man? What's
Sorry,
up?
little tech difficulty there. What's going on?
Good, good. I mean, how are you doing today? Welcome to the SEO video show. I mean, I booked you like some time ago, and it was when you actually just got a promotion. I mean, tell us about that promotion. I mean, you've been at L'Oreal for quite some time now.
Quite some time, yeah, and I'm actually enjoying myself there. Yeah, so I've been there about 8 years. It was actually funny. I saw the age progression in that intro video that you had. Like when I started, I was a young guy, and you know, definitely seeing the age kick in. So yeah, I've been there about 8 years. Have had a few different roles. I've worked in e-com strategy. I've worked in technical SEO. I've worked in leading development teams. And then a few years back, I was tapped to take on SEO strategy for the luxury products division of L'Oreal, which is the higher price point beauty brands. And then most recently, I was basically tapped to move up to corporate to be myself for the rest of the organization. So it's about 38 brands in total. And, you know, we are working on a lot of SEO strategy, content, tech, pretty much everything under the sun for a lot of really cool brands.
Did you say 38?
38 brands, yes, sir.
Wow. I mean,
yeah.
How are you even managing all the properties?
The white beard. Yeah. See the white beard, the age.
Oh, man.
Brands. Yes, sir.
Okay, let's take it back a little further. I mean, you know, we saw your professional career here. How'd you even get into SEO? What was like your into SEO?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I have an engineering background, as you mentioned, and I was a web developer a long time ago, right? And so, you know, when I started developing websites for companies, you know, a lot of the things that I would hear, and I think every developer at some point in their career got into the the situation where they were creating small sites just to keep, you know, their skills up to date. So they're creating small mom and pop shop sites or creating like small company sites, really just putting yourself out there to kind of keep yourself up to date. And a lot of the feedback I'd get was, I gave you some money for this website and I'm not getting any traffic. How do I get found, right? And so started to really understand how the search engines at that time really worked, understanding that at that time it was Yahoo was the big one, Google had just started, and really it took me back to when I was actually studying engineering and you know, server appliances and so forth, understanding how indexing works and understanding how search appliances work and how data is captured and stored and architected. And so I started to really get into SEO at that time. This was about 16, 17 years ago. And at that time, it was much easier than it is now, right? The algorithm wasn't really where it was.
Oh, yeah.
And so I really, really just got very honed into understanding how to push traffic to websites. You know, and I worked for a good amount of time for a private equity company or a private company, and they weren't really too concerned about driving a lot of traffic. And at a certain point, they decided, okay, we want to turn into a B2B. We want to get out there. We want to be found. You know, how do we start putting our name out there? And I started to get involved with the teams there. That wasn't really officially my role, but I started to get involved with the teams of letting them know, like, hey, here's how you optimize. Here's a page title strategy. Here's a meta description strategy. And I was there for a good amount of time, and I was actually able to really help the company at that time really build its, you know, its SEO presence. And then I moved on to Toys R Us, which was my first sort of foray into e-com SEO and a very well-known consumer brand or consumer name, right? And I jumped into Toys R Us as leading a development team. So it was a team of developers, and I came in with a very strong SEO technical mindset, where I was all about scalability. I was all about optimization, make the site run fast, and let's integrate our team into marketing and show them how we can assist or provide value in driving revenue. So
you actually led that path. You actually led the path.
Yeah, that was.
Oh wow, that's pretty hard.
So yeah, it was. You know, it was. I would say at that time, Toys R Us, just so much brand power behind the name that you know, SEO wasn't a major consideration, and SEO as a practice at that time wasn't really something that a lot of people believed in. It was something that they thought it was like all black hat and just like little hacks and things like that. And we were actually able to show value in architecture, and we were able to show value in ease of navigation and usability and all these different things that we did for the Toys R Us company at that time. And it got to a point where, and this is actually a really great story, and I don't know how much time we have, but I can probably talk about this for a long time.
Oh, let's go.
All right, cool. So I was there. I was the unofficial SEO guy at Toys R Us, and they decided, okay, we're seeing some wins from SEO. Let's kind of get serious about this. And so they hired someone from the publishing industry. He came in from Hearst Media, and he was the first person that basically said to me, he's like, I'm going to really train you on SEO. Like, I'm really going to show you what SEO is all about. Got me into some Bruce Clay classes at that time. I didn't know who Bruce Clay was. I mean, I kind of did a little bit, but I wasn't really like into his, really into him. So he got me into like some, you know, there's no formal training for SEO, but really the hardcore stuff really got me into, you know, got me accounts to Moz and got me into the Whiteboard Fridays at that time, and really showed me how big the SEO world is. And that's where it really clicked for me, that it was like, this is something I'm good at. This is something that I think I can lead. And we really just like went to work about really showing not only Toys R Us as a brand, but Toys R Us also owned a portfolio of brands. It was Babies R Us, it was eToys, there were so many brands under the umbrella that the work we started to do really started to make its way through the organization. And I was so happy with the work that we did there. So that's where I was really sort of ingrained into SEO as a practice. And I really felt that, okay, it's not just about tech, which is my background and everything that I was thinking about, but it was really about the content marketing side and really understanding how to think about things like human computer interaction and information architecture and content architecture and all these things. Like you actually mentioned earlier about the outline and writing a paper in school, right? That's the exact analogy I use at my current role. It's like this is how these things are read by the bots, right? This is an outline that you're creating, and creating those semantic relationships with, like, this is your main keyword, this is the keyword that's most related to it, let's create the sequence. and let's tell the story in that way. And that's how you build power. So really got into that with Toys R Us. It really wasn't something that they were thinking to create a lot of content about. And they actually ended up creating an entire content team, which was really great. So that was my time there. And then the person I was working for decided to move to L'Oreal and brought me with him. So
Nice.
we partnered up at L'Oreal. Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I came into L'Oreal to work on a few small brands, really leading development and optimization, really transitioned over to more of the e-com strategy side of things, where I thought about SEO as a main acquisition channel, but really understanding UX, UI, UX, which, as you know, is so important to SEO. So really got trained on UI, UX with some big names like, NNM. Oh man, I just lost the name. These are like these big UX guys. So anyways, we did some training for UX, really understood. And that was at that time, really understood what mobile was going to mean for us, especially in the beauty space, and people just kind of really always on their phones, especially for, in our demographic. And so really started to get into mobile and all these different things. So that was really my transition from like hardcore engineer to SEO tech to now an SEO, and really working with copywriters, content creators, content marketers, and UI UX teams, and really everyone that's involved in SEO, which is so many people.
I mean, that's so awesome how you were able to build these new teams, right? I mean, because of SEO, you develop, these new teams that came about it from like the content marketing teams, and then even working with the UX team, and how your career has grown with the actual role of being an SEO. I mean, that's totally awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been exciting.
So like you were talking about mobile. I mean, I was watching a video of you from Bright Edge, and you were talking about like AMP. I mean, people are talking about AMP like crazy right now. I mean, like I see Google trying to do a lot more things, pushing things with AMP. I mean, even with something with web stories. What's your current strategy with AMP and maybe web stories and maybe even Discover? Because I know in the makeup industry, like, there's a lot of photos and a lot of like beauty pics that can go well with Discover. I mean, is this something that you guys have been checking out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have definitely been looking at Discover as a big opportunity for us over the last year. And even just taking a step back in terms of AMP, we have had some brands that play into AMP and PSA at the same time. And I think this all goes back to sort of the topic of enterprise SEO, and like, how do you bring in these more innovative long-term solutions, or maybe even just like things that aren't proven out, and how do you sell the investment into those things? And how do you get into that space and sort of test and learn? Because SEO at sort of my underlying foundation for anything I do is test and learn, right? It's something we always need to be trying new things and seeing what's going to work. And as we all know, Google changes their mind about a lot of things very often. So when we're thinking about AMP, at the time that we started testing, it really wasn't at the place it needed to be for e-commerce. And for us, it was really all about e-commerce, right? And so for me, at that time, the brands that I was working with, I basically made the decision of, okay, I think there are other things we can do to probably prioritize over AMP for now, but let's keep our eye on AMP. Let's keep our eye on the program. And it really started to evolve in terms of e-commerce, like letting us add to cart capabilities and letting us add ratings and reviews and all these different things that really were these really major determining factors in regards to purchase and conversion. So we are still exploring AMP. We are still testing into AMP. That it's something that we are constantly looking at. And then moving over to Discover, the Discover feed has just been a huge, huge thing for us because, to your point, we're such a visual market. We're such a visual industry. And it's just a perfect way for you to showcase these things. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that from a schema perspective, we're architecting, we're creating the framework that will allow our content to fit into these pieces, to fit into these like SERP features, right? So that's really what our focus has been overall just for Discover, and we're starting to see some good results.
So I'm curious with Discover. I mean, that's something I haven't even looked into. I mean, what's the basis of getting optimized for Discover? Like, what are you doing to your sites besides schema?
I think it goes back to the basics. Yeah, I think it goes really back to the basics of SEO. I think it's about your images and making sure they're tagged properly. As we know, the content around the image really provides those context clues to Google when they're indexing and when they're storing and understanding the picture itself or the image itself. And so for us, it's really just going back to those basics of making sure that we have those optimizations in place. And then we have very strong value proposition, very strong titles and headlines that really fit into telling those kinds of stories. And for us, we have a lot of opportunities in terms of telling stories. We have a lot of tutorial-based content, a lot of how-to, a lot of things that, you know, are specific, not specific, but like, you know, really grab it, sort of really grab our consumers. And it's things, you know, Discover itself, it's a new program. So we're really trying to understand how do we continue optimizing and what are some things that we want to maybe pivot on. So it's always something that we're evaluating and changing.
Got it. I mean, you mentioned like 38 properties. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I've actually found out that you actually have makeup.com and skincare.com, all a part of your portfolio. I mean, that's huge. I mean, and how are you like, so how are you even optimizing each one of these, like each property? Are you still using like an enterprise software? Like
we're using enterprise software. So as you know, we are partnering with Bright Edge. And I think it goes back to scalability, just understanding your tech stack and your platforms really well in a way where you can understand where your opportunities are to scale. So, you know, we have all these properties, we have, you know, very similar tech stacks across in the back end. So for us, it's, you know, and this is like really important for SEO, it's building those relationships with your engineers, with your development teams, with your IT partners, to again show that value. And I think that my time at Toys R Us and the previous, you know, roles that I've had has really helped me to hone my skills in on inclusivity in SEO and really showing different teams that are not directly involved how their work impacts the work that we can do or our own objectives for SEO, right? So even though there's so many brands, we have maybe 20 of them that are on the same tech stack. And for us, it's like, okay, let's build a dynamic way to implement schema that we can scale very quickly. Or let's make sure that we have the right templating system in place or the right JavaScript, you know, logic in place. And we're creating things that are very lean and really taking modular approach within that scaling sort of framework, within that dynamic framework of like, let's build pieces of things that we can change quickly and we can scale very quickly.
Nice. I mean, you mentioned about talking to other teams. I mean, this is something very interesting that I was actually listening to, where you actually have a whole team within the marketing department or within the company building backlinks for you, right? It's your PR team, right? Can you tell us how that works? I mean, I found that like totally amazing that you were able to get the PR team on board to help you get backlinks. How's that process work for you?
I'll say it's, you know, I think that there are a lot of great teams at the company right now. There are a lot of really great, very smart people that understand how to optimize their own work and how to really get the biggest bang for the buck, right? We sometimes work in a lean fashion and we have to, you know, really do as much as we can with sometimes, you know, less than, you know, ideal resources. And so it really wasn't a tough sell. It was just these really great people that wanted to get involved. And, you know, a lot of it was just evangelizing the importance of PR and how it fits into SEO. And then at the same time, showing how those teams contributed really when you're telling those stories with senior leadership and making sure that they're involved in those wins, right? I think it's if you get people excited about contributing, it's no longer a high level of effort for you to get these people involved. And so for us, you know, we have teams that work directly with very big publishers and very big publishing companies. And then we have teams that work directly with brands. And we are in constant contact with them about everything that has to do with our backlink profiles and building our SEO presence, you know, and so they're totally on board, and it's just a great partnership that we have across the board.
Yeah, I think that's so cool that you guys have that you're able to educate everyone and the value that everyone brings, and like you said, like how the wins that everyone can bring in just motivates other people to get in. I mean, it's pretty hard, right? In enterprise SEO, you need that buy-in, and you're killing it with that. I mean, so even with that, I'm curious, how big is the team that you manage for SEO? Because at first, you know, I was thinking of myself, and like, you know, I'm usually like the one person within the company. You know, maybe I have an agency partner, but when I saw on my feed on LinkedIn, I saw like, oh, another person is SEO. I was like, oh, wait a minute, did you move on from L'Oreal? I was like, and then I was like, oh, you have actually more than one SEO in your team. Like, so how can you explain the breakdown of your team of SEOs?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have SEO points of contact at each brand that really just oversee the SEO program itself. And so we've built a framework for a program that that person will take in, and it's really about enabling them to evangelize and to be a part of the conversation when we're talking about marketing objectives and so forth. And then we have these very hardcore SEOs that come in, and so the team itself, um, I won't say it's scattered, but it's there are large brands, there are small brands, there are shared resources, there are specific resources by brand. Um, I would say that in terms of hardcore SEOs, we have about three in total, and then we have just points of contact that oversee SEO that we constantly educate and work with across the board. So I would say there's a lot there are a lot of people contributing to SEO right now and having SEO as part of their overall purview or their singular purview.
Got it. So, especially you guys are like an e-com, your e-com business. I mean, also like a brick and mortar spot. I mean, how has SEO changed for you with us staying at home? And like, I know someone was saying like, hey, there's not going to be like a Black Friday anymore because almost every day is a Black Friday, right? You got to treat it like it's like every day is like, that's the only place where anyone can shop. So how has like the landscape changed for you? And I mean, I'm assuming it boomed for at least the online portion of the business.
Yeah, it actually did. It really made us move very quickly. And I think we had these very aggressive goals in place, and we were able to blow those goals out of the water. And I think it was just us sort of reassembling and making sure that we have the right people in where we need them. And digital has really now overtaken in terms of focus. What's great about the company is that there are lower price point products that are still part of places that you can go that stayed open during the pandemic, and then there are the higher price point products that have made that shift over to digital. And for us, I would say we were very lucky that our company had a major focus on digital and really helped to build out a lot of the foundation so that when we did have to move quickly, we were able to. The one thing that we constantly talk about, or recently have been talking about a lot, is everything starting earlier and everything sort of meshed together in terms of seasonality and consumer demand and gifting behavior and all these different things. It's like everything's earlier. Let's start optimizing earlier. Let's make sure our pages are refreshed earlier. Like we really need to make sure all of that's in place in order for us to capture a lot of these things. And outside of that, we've always had an evergreen content strategy around these very, very aggressive and very high volume seasonal moments like Black Friday and Cyber Monday and so forth. So for us, it was like, let's just get these things back at the forefront. Let's make sure they're optimized, and content refresh has been the big topic lately.
Content refresh. So how are you particularly refreshing your content?
Well, from an e-com perspective, it's updated merchandising, updated meta descriptions, updated page titles, updated H1s. We are increasing discoverability. Internal link structure is something that we've definitely focused on. We really want to make sure that these areas that are going to drive the most for us are discoverable. So it's really about increasing their discoverability. We've taken into account usability and site speed, load times, really taken a mobile first approach to a lot of things. So it's just a sort of an attack from all angles, right? It's just tech, making sure the tech's in place, making sure that you're updating the keywords that you need to, you're not dating your content. You heard earlier in the news section that Bill Slawski was talking about how dates work, and then you mentioned as well in the meta descriptions and dates and things like that. So for us, that's an important thing. Like we don't want to date our content. We want to make sure it's always refreshed, and we also want to have the right structure and format. So things like that we're looking into, which has been so far so good.
I mean, that's interesting. That's a part where I can totally understand when you don't want to see the fresh or the date there, because it can totally say, hey, this may be old, and they won't want to buy it. Yeah, that's totally see that there.
Very specific strategy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got to be a very, very tight strategy. It can't be anything that a date in the URL would probably date the page and make it hard for you to. Yeah. So for us, it's like we see the demand of Black Friday deals 2020, that kind of thing. People don't want to be taken back to old content. And so even the search behavior is much more sophisticated. And so we want to make sure that we're aligned with that, but in the right areas.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, there's one thing that you actually also talked about on some customer videos I was watching was voice search. Are you guys still going in on voice search, and how does that work for like an e-commerce site?
So for us, this year I think has changed a lot in terms of things that we wanted to test into. I think voice search really does heavily rely on a lot of the basics of SEO, and I always try to tell the teams I work with, like, it's always about the basics. It's always about the fundamentals, right? And so voice search has been built on those fundamentals of understanding contextual values and understanding context and alt text and all these different things that feed into the bot itself on traditional search, and like what can voice search do for you. And then for us, when we started thinking about voice search a few years back, it was like, let's get much more conversational in our content, right? Let's have a Q&A session. Let's create content that's answering the most commonly asked questions, right? And that's really, been a big thing for us. So in terms of voice search, we haven't seen a huge sort of lift or adaptation of it, but when that happens, we'll be ready.
Got it. Okay, so there's something I want to go ahead and ask this question where I've always asked. Actually, let me see if there's anyone in the chat that has any questions for Carlos on e-com SEO or anything that we're talking about. Go ahead and ask, and it will show up on the screen. But even before then, like, I'm curious, like, we were listening to a couple e-commerce SEO tips, like, images, optimize your images now because it goes straight to product pages and even Google Shopping. I'm curious, what are some things that you can possibly tell someone that's trying to build an e-commerce site, even if there's like something small, that they should be paying attention to?
I always say that schema is the future of everything. I think, like, thinking about, over time, how all these different companies have tried to index information online and just using different methodologies, different ways of going about it, building bots and scrapers that could potentially interpret things in different ways. Schema for me, I think, is a way that helps everything to be organized. And even during the pandemic, when things were open, things were closed, concerts were still on, they were off, you saw Google do, I think, an amazing job of taking the content and answering as many questions as they could right in the SERP. So they reformatted the SERP to really, really reflect consumer behavior. And that, for me, I think that that's all about schema and microdata, and really understanding, what properties, what objects are most relevant to your brand and your business. So if I was talking to someone who was building a new e-commerce site, I would say, make your navigation clean. Make sure that you are making it fast loading and mobile friendly, and make sure you have schema in place. Those are the big three things for me if I was building a brand new site.
There you have it, from e-com expert Carlos Spallarossa. So let's see here. I want to go ahead. We actually do have one question. It says here, technical questions. Does CSS grid over Bootstrap in performance? Does CSS grid over Bootstrap in performance?
Is that a question basically asking, is CSS grid better than Bootstrap in
Yeah, I would think so.
Is that, or I think it all depends. I think it depends on the methodology and the way it's implemented. I've seen a lot of sites that use CSS grids that have a lot of, I would say, bloat and overlaps in styling. And I think it's really about having a solid team that understands the type of page, the type of template, the type of content to be expected. I think it's about working with your marketing team to really understand overall objectives and giving them as much flexibility as possible. And then in turn, your development team should be able to create a CSS strategy that can be nimble and flexible, but at the same time have the right guardrails in place. And then I've seen Bootstrap work really well in times, and I've seen Bootstrap, be a mess, right? So I think it really depends. If you have a brand new site, I would say look into Bootstrap. I think it's still a very solid framework. I think it's something that is very modularized and very granular and at times, and I think and at the same time could be very generic and very dynamic. So
nice. Okay, This is the question I always ask all my SEO professionals on here. This is something where I want to ask you, like, hey, if someone wanted to get into SEO, what is that one thing that can help someone get into become an SEO professional? Not necessarily an expert, but hey, maybe just break into the SEO industry.
That's interesting. I sometimes have different answers. I think what I'm trying to do right now is not. I think in the SEO sometimes like people ask you questions and you're like, that depends. Like that's the favorite line of every SEO, right? Like it depends, right?
Yeah.
Like it depends. So I think it depends on what that person's currently doing. Like if it's someone that's technical, like coming from a tech background, I would basically tell them like understand the fundamentals of what you're doing. Understand that like the web best practices in terms of web development are what matters in SEO. And if you get very good at being a great developer in terms of architecture and semantics, you can basically follow that path into SEO and take that knowledge with you and see success. If I'm talking to a marketing person who wants to get into SEO, I really play more of the content marketing approach of like, the most important thing you need to do is understand your consumer. Understand what your consumer wants, what they're looking for throughout the entire funnel. And here's some things that can teach you about what keyword research means or what consumer intent means. Like start reading up on these things, and then I'll start giving them the most well-known SEO websites that we all kind of jump into, like the Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land, all these different sites that we're all super into. And I tell them like, check this out, like look at this, and that's how I sort of help them integrate what they're currently doing into what it could mean for them in terms of SEO.
Love it. Okay, Carlos, thank you for becoming my special guest here. I totally appreciate it. I mean, anyone out there that wants to get a hold of you, how can they find you? What is your email if you can give it out?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn very easily. It's C Spallarossa at the end, or just search my name on LinkedIn. And my email account is C as in my name, Spallarossa@gmail.com. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And thank you for having me on the show. You've had some really, really great SEOs on here, and you're creating some great content. So I'm definitely feeling lucky and privileged to be on the show. This is it's been really cool.
No, thank you. I mean, again, like I booked you way before even the show started, right? This was like way back, and it just started picking up steam. I mean, we have Jennifer saying hi here. You know Jennifer Diamond?
Jen Diamond, yeah. She's one of my colleagues. She's awesome. Yeah, leading ecom for one of the brands. She's awesome. Yeah. Hey, Jen.
Hey, what's up, Jennifer Diamond? Okay, everyone. Carlos, can you go ahead and just stay on for a moment while I say bye to everyone and sign off? Let me go. Okay, cool. Let me see here. All right, everyone. That concludes this week's SEO video show. I mean, great conversation here. Be sure to join next week. We have a special guest from TubeBuddy, Robert Balasabas, who will be talking about YouTube SEO, something we never actually had here yet. So be sure to check it out. And I will see you next week.
For watching. Hope you come back next week. Make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss a thing. Hope you learn something new, because the vibe is incredible. From the special SEO professionals, SEO video show. Let's work. Want to see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre Devera helping you step it up. No delay right now. Time to level up. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Woo. Woo.